Hello! So, this week's video is going to be my recon report for Conception 2016. Conception 2016 is a tabletop RPG role-playing game con that Helen and I go to every, well, 2016 isn't every year, Conception is every year. 2016 was this year. We've been going for a few years together now, and I went for a couple of years before Helen started to come as well. It's normally at Holborn Nash, in just between Highcliffe and New Milton in Dorset, but this year was a bit different because due to renovations we were still staying at Nash, but a lot of the gaming was taking place in Holborn Park, about 10 minutes down the road, a mile or so down the road. So we were there from Wednesday last week until Sunday, just gone. We arrived about Wednesday lunchtime, having stayed the night before with my parents and devisers. Arrival was as smooth as anything, picked up the keys very quickly, straight over to the lodge. We unpacked the car, Helen decided to have a nap, and I went over to a friend's, Ash's lodge, to play a few card games. Nick and I went over, that was quite a good fun. In the evening of that day, of Wednesday, we went over to the second site, grabbed some food, a couple of drinks, and took part in the quiz. The quiz was quiet. This year there didn't appear to be anywhere near as many people involved. I'd have to put that down to it being on the second site and a lot of people deciding not to go over that evening. But it was still fun. We sort of came mid-table, which, considering we called ourselves a mediocre team, was about right, and helped put money to the charity collection, so all good. Slight hiccup that evening, the bus doing the evening runs didn't arrive, but the con organisers and Nash got everyone back to the Holborn, got everyone back to where they were staying, so it didn't cause any problems. I did put up a game for the following day, but I was feeling pretty crappy by the end of the evening, so I pulled it. Decided not to push myself and run a game when I wasn't feeling well. So that was Wednesday. Thursday, when I woke up, I was actually feeling somewhat better, and a couple of friends, and Helen didn't have a game anyway, so I decided to run a lodge game. It ended up being a two-parter, Friday morning and Friday evening. And I ran James Mullen's Blood and Water, which is really, Being Human, the TV series, a kind of unofficial role-playing game of that, where you play monsters, non-humans, who've recently become non-human, trying to pass themselves off in the living world. So for that game I had Helen, Ash and Mark from Coffee and Dice, and then in the evening session I also had Toad. The three main characters were Ash was a Wendigo. She was a food critic for a local paper who wasn't as famous as she thought she could be. Kept her job as a food critic but could only feed on human hearts. Helen played a very devout Christian teenager who'd been possessed by the devil himself. That was interesting. And Mark played what he insisted on calling a Prometheus, but was really a Frankenstein's monster. The third, Adam, was the first. Someone he fought called Brendan was the second, and he was the third as Charles. And various crazy things happened. Charles met the second Promethean, who was actually Brenda, and was female. He pretty much gave up his own freedom to allow her to escape. Helen's character was insane, couldn't hold down a relationship, and Ash's food critic, after killing a competitor and eating their heart at a restaurant when the body was found that his critiques and stories were being bumped up the paper, so started to go on a murder spree. As we say, we played that morning and evening, and that was good fun. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best Blood and Water I've ever run, but it was still good fun, and definitely something I'll continue to run in the future. In the afternoon, just went over to Ash's lodge, and Ash, Toad and myself played a couple of card games. And that was Thursday. Friday I was playing all day over at Holborn Park. In the morning I played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay with Andy Kybert, stripped of a lot of the rules, character sheet didn't really have numbers on it, which was fine for me, that's quite how I like it. Fair bit of, enough dice rolling, not too much, very character driven. We didn't complete it, but that's because we were too damn careful. Apparently we didn't go running straight into the woods and we thought we knew where the big bad was. Instead we tried to make sure we knew what we were doing, which is unusual. Didn't matter, had a great game with great players, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the character. In the afternoon I played Fiasco with Fad, one of the play sets from the basic rules. Yeah, I enjoyed it, we got good stories. The only thing I would say about it is I felt when people were setting scenes for each other. They weren't framing hard enough. It was very, oh, you're in a meeting with a mayor, they're unhappy with you, things like that. I prefer to frame hard. When I went to frame a scene for someone, you've just crashed into the police station, you come to with lots of guns pointing at you, that was met with a bit of resistance. Now, it's all about different ways of playing, but to me, that's really how you play Fiasco. You play hard and frame hard, and it pushes more. And the best games I've had of it have been those which have done that. Then Saturday evening, I played in Dread with Mark again from Coffee and Dice Games. Link will be below as ever, as it will for Blood and Water too. So it was a horror story based on Dread, but not Dread Jenga, which some of you may have heard of, but instead of that he used a game called Librium, which is kind of reverse Jenga where you're balancing cards. They've got slots at either end and one slot on either side, and you're balancing them into each other and hanging them, and for different difficulties we're hanging more cards. A couple of pictures, maybe a clip from, you may have seen a clip from the other video, but I've got a couple of pictures of the shadows it casts here because I think they look really cool. That was really fun. There was 4 of us playing that, Helen, Nick and another guy I'd not met before. Really enjoyed that. It was a really great game. And then we finished about 10:30 and Helen and I went straight back to the lodge because we were feeling tired at that point. Saturday I was playing one of Ash's games, Sanctuary, all day. Link below again for Dan Wayne Games, which is where Ash's things are. It's not on there, but some detail about it's on there if you look for Frostbite. His other games on there is A Family Affair, which I would recommend to anyone who likes a very story-driven game. No dice in Family Affair. It's all about playing out scenes where you already kind of know what's going to happen. It's just how it plays out. Very, very good game. Sanctuary is a bit different. It does have a dice mechanic. It's a post-apocalyptic survival game. That was 3 slots, Saturday morning, afternoon and evening. It was myself, Peanut, Neil, Jess and Lisa who played that one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My character, Mark, the new age pagan hippie who'd quit business, started off as a bit of a peacemaker, managed to get on the bad side of the other 2 male members of the party who were both football fans, Hammers and Millwall. That was fun. Because he was a hippie, he was doing meditation every morning. I played it up a bit, it was fun. Took quite a backseat and sort of played mediator for the first session, took a bit of a backseat in the second session, but became quite a focus in the last session. Hope it wasn't too much to everyone else. I thoroughly enjoyed it, although it did go basically bouncing around depression, which I found really cathartic. As a lot of you know, I do suffer myself, but I found it really cathartic doing that. And yes, there's a bunch of things I did differently, but for me, that was my game of the con. Would love to play it again with the right group of players, maybe over a slightly longer period. Isn't for everyone, can get very dark and driven. There were points where people were shouting at each other in character, but it gets very emotional, and there were tears as well as laughter had by all, I think. But brilliant, brilliant game, really enjoyed it. And that moved us over to Sunday. Now, unfortunately, we had to get off on Sunday because we had some paganing to do in the evening. It was an Olk, and we had a grove to go to with a ritual, brilliant ritual. But we did pop over to the other site to see the people we could say goodbye to. Saw Alina for the first and only time and delivered some jam for her. And then home it was to get our pagan on in the evening. There were purchases, of course, many, many purchases. I bought 3 books of Fiasco play sets from Leisure Games. A lot of these play sets are online anyway, but I like having them in one place, and I really like Pulpit Games, so supporting them is always a bonus. I'm looking for the rest of this year to run a lot more indie, so the more stuff I have like this, the better. I also replaced my missing One Ring books post-flood, so Ruins of the North, Rivendell, GM's Screen, or Lawmaster's Screen, along with the Lake Town source book, which I really needed because one of my characters in my online game we're about to restart is a man of the lake and the darkening of Mirkwood. Considering that's what we're playing for, that was quite an important buy. I also picked up from Cubicle 7 again, as was all the One Ring, Doctor Who, Adventures in Time and Space, and the Defending Earth, the unit sourcebook for Doctor Who. The reason I got these is a new group started, we tried the One Ring, I think they enjoyed it, but I'm getting a bit weary of it, I guess, at the moment, just a bit burnt out on it. It will bounce back, probably the online game will help, so I thought I'd get something else which might give people an in to run, so we might see if they want to try that at some time. We also bought much jewellery for Helen, but that was seen in our vlog last week. Thoughts on the con as a whole. The organisers did everything they could to make it as good as possible based on the two sites. For me personally, I prefer it on one site. Couldn't be helped, it was no one's fault who organises the con. They did everything they could to make it run as smoothly as possible. Good things about the second site. Table service for food, but they were able to do that because they had extra staff from the sites being renovated there. Although the choices of food were slightly more limited. It was okay, it was what it was. Having a bar by the main gaming table was good and bad. I could see it getting noisy, but very handy, just pop over and grab a quick drink and be straight back at your table. Personally, I played less and I ran less than I normally do, and I am a bit disappointed by that. I could have done more to correct that by getting over to the main site more, but for example on the Thursday when I ran morning and evening, it was a lot of effort to get over to see if there's anything worth playing in the afternoon that I didn't, and played a few card games instead. Whereas if we'd all been in one con, I would have been popping over, nothing there, I'll run something, and I probably would have got the players I normally do, or I might have found something to just sign on to play. Again, the Friday I played all day because I wasn't over there to put a game up. I probably would have run at least one more session. Also, as I said, it affected the quiz and it made Wednesday a bit dull for me. I like arriving, unpacking, just going out to the bar and seeing who's around, social games in the evening, some werewolf or something. None of that really happened. I get why, I really do. And it was a one-off, so we'll be back to normal next year, which is good, but that's just my things on the con. But massive thank you to the organisers, couldn't have done it without you. Massive thank you to everyone who played in the games or provided the games I played. Next con for me will be Concrete Cow in March. Definitely be running something there. Then it will be Control on the 30th of April. Again, I will run at least one slot, probably both. I must look at what to run, but I'm probably going to go fairly indie. And then we're definitely doing Condemned this year, which is going to be very indie for me. I'm not taking the One Ring or anything like that, just indie games. I'm even tempted if there'd be a take-up to do one day, do Grey Ranks for the whole day. It's another game by Bully. Always get this one, Bully Pulpit Games. But again, I'd need to know I had the players who were up for it in advance, because that game is not for everyone. Link to Bully Pulpit below, look it up if you want to. Yes, that was Conception 2016. I had a great time. It's made me more creative. I started writing songs again since. I started working on my own role-playing game again since. And I wish I was still there in some ways, but it wasn't my favourite Conception ever. But it was a one-off, business as usual next year, and I'm sure it'll be fine. So, hope to see you all again soon. Bye!